At 1 o'clock this afternoon, the Treasury Secretary of the United States stood at a podium and announced the largest financial attack in American history. He called it an economic D-Day. He used the words economic asphyxiation out loud about a country of 90 million people. And while he was saying it, the price of oil went down, down. Brent crude fell 1.5% to $93.09 a barrel. Meanwhile, Bitcoin sat at $77,300, finishing its best week in 3 years. That is not what the biggest financial offensive in history is supposed to look like. When you drop the largest weapon you own, the market flinches. This one shrugged and then bought Bitcoin. You notice the mismatch. Big words, small day. And here's the part almost nobody is saying out loud. The reason today was small is the most important thing that happened today. Before we go anywhere, let me put you inside it. If you have $100,000 sitting in a savings account this morning, prices are rising about 3.3% a year, and your bank is paying you close to nothing on it. That is roughly $3,300 of your buying power gone this year. No press conference, no podium, nobody announces that one. Hold that number, because what got announced today is the reason it keeps happening, and the reason it is getting harder to walk away from. I keep gold and Bitcoin prices live on a dashboard I built for days exactly like this one, and I want to tell you what it was showing while he was talking. But first you need to know what he actually said. They gave it a name, Operation Economic Outcasts. Here is the sentence that matters, word for word. Any entity that facilitates money laundering on behalf of Iran will be removed from the US dollar system. The clock just started ticking. Say that back to yourself slowly. Not fined, not investigated, removed. That is not a penalty, that is a lock change. A fine says you pay us and go back to work. A lock change says your key stops working at the door. Picture it at your own bank. The $40,000 in your checking account is still on the statement tomorrow morning, and you simply cannot spend $1 of it. Then Treasury named 5 things it intends to reach: digital assets, technology, gold, aviation, shipping. 5 industries worldwide told that doing business with one country will cost you the dollar. Notice which one is first on that list: digital assets. Hold that too. We are coming back to it, and it is the reason this is a Bitcoin story and not a Middle East story. Now, what was not in the box? No companies named, no dollar amounts, no deadline. Asked straight out how long the world has, he said, and this is a quote, "I'm not going to set a timeline, but we do not have infinite patience here." And the parts that sound new mostly are not. Iran's banks were already cut out of the global payment system. There is already a naval blockade on its ports. Secondary sanctions on its oil already exist on paper. Treasury has only ever partly enforced them. So the greatest financial offensive ever marshaled against an adversary turned out, on the day, to be a list and a warning. China buys about 90% of Iran's oil. Not some of it, 90%. Every other buyer is a rounding error. And Xi Jinping is scheduled to be in Washington on September 24th. So the one lifeline that actually matters runs through the one country nobody is going to cut off 4 weeks before that meeting. The weapon fires perfectly at Dubai shell companies and stops cold at Beijing. It is a landlord who can evict anybody in the building except the tenant holding the mortgage on it. The oil market did that arithmetic in about 4 minutes, decided the barrels keep moving east, and marked crude down. Here is the turn. The dud is not the story. The dud is the door. Because in order to threaten Iran, Treasury had to say out loud, in public, exactly which levers it can pull, and that list is the most honest thing the United States government has published all year. Digital assets, technology, gold, aviation, shipping. What do those 5 have in common? Every single one of them has a middle, a man at a desk. Gold needs a vault, a custodian, and somebody willing to ship it. Aviation needs a registry and a leasing company. Shipping needs an insurer and a flag. Technology needs an export license, and digital assets need an issuer, a company, with an address, and a lawyer who answers the phone. That is the entire design. American financial power does not work by reaching your money. It works by reaching the man standing next to your money. I showed you the proof back in July. Tether, the biggest dollar token company on Earth, froze $131 million belonging to Iran's own central bank. Not after a trial, not after an appeal, after a request from a treasury office. A central bank got switched off by a private company in an afternoon. That is what digital assets means on that list. It does not mean Bitcoin. It means the companies standing next to Bitcoin. Now stop thinking about Iran and count your own middles. Your savings account has a man in the middle. Your brokerage has a man. Your money market fund has a man. If you own gold through a fund, you own a claim on somebody else's metal in somebody else's building. If you own Bitcoin on an exchange, you own an entry in a company's spreadsheet. Even your paid-off house has a registry, a county, and a tax man. You have $100,000 in a money market fund. Ask yourself honestly, how many phone calls stand between you and those dollars? The answer is not zero. It never was. Today they set it into a microphone. That gold number I am about to give you is live on my macro command center at timtalksfinance.com/members per ounce, not a delayed fund quote. In 2022, the United States and its allies froze about $300 billion of Russia's central bank reserves. Overnight. That is an abstraction, so bring it to your kitchen table. Imagine your entire retirement account, every dollar of it, still showing on the screen tomorrow, and simply not spendable. That is what happened to a country. Every finance minister on earth watched it happen. And the lesson they took was not, don't invade your neighbor. The lesson was, never keep your country's savings somewhere another country holds the key. Watch what they did next. The World Gold Council surveyed central banks this spring. 76 of them answered, the most ever. 89% said they expect the world's central banks to hold more gold over the next 12 months. And 74% said they expect to hold fewer US dollars over the next 5 years. 74%. Of the people who hold the dollar for a living. In the second quarter of this year alone, central banks bought 288.9 tons of gold. Gold is $4,712 an ounce today, up 39.5% in 12 months. That is not a gold rally. That is a vote of no confidence, priced in ounces. $10,000 of gold a year ago is about $13,950 today. The same $10,000 in your savings account is still $10,000, and it buys less. But here's where I have to be honest with you, and it is the part most people selling you something will skip. Gold is not your version of that move. Gold works for a central bank because a central bank can fly it home and put soldiers around it. You cannot fly anything home. Gold in a vault has an address, a custodian, and a country. The exact arrangement that got frozen in 2022. And the third item on the list, Treasury published today. Gold is the on-ramp. Bitcoin is the exit. And the difference between those two words is the whole video. Back to the top of that list. Digital assets. Treasury can reach digital assets. It absolutely can. The exchanges, the stablecoin issuers, the custodians, the brokers. Every one is a company with an office and a compliance department. And every one will pick up the phone. But that is the plumbing around Bitcoin. It is not Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the only asset touching that list where there is nobody to serve the order on. You cannot remove Bitcoin from the dollar system because Bitcoin was never in it. There is no Bitcoin issuer to threaten, no Bitcoin vault to raid, no headquarters to sanction, no servers to seize, only a protocol. 21 million, fixed, forever. No man at a desk who can decide your key stops working, and no man at a desk who can decide to make more. That second half is the one taking money out of your pocket every year. Everything they are getting ready to move onto digital rails, bonds, funds, houses, dollars themselves, still has somebody who can print more of it. A tokenized bond has an issuer. A tokenized house has a registry. A dollar token has a company, and you just watch that company freeze a central bank. A digital dollar would have the Fed. Bitcoin has none of them. That is the entire argument, and it is the whole reason this channel exists. So look at today again. The government announced the biggest financial weapon in history. Oil fell, gold climbed, and Bitcoin closed out its best week in 3 years at $77,300. I am not telling you to buy Bitcoin today, and I have no idea what Bitcoin does next week. Nobody does. There are no certainties here, only probabilities. But run the probability. Somewhere around $900 trillion sits in the world's store of value assets. Gold, bonds, stocks, real estate, cash. Try it at your scale. Out of every $100 of savings on Earth, yours included, imagine 15 to 22 of those dollars walking toward the one thing nobody can print more of. Do that, and a single Bitcoin is worth 7 to 10 million. That is not a promise. That is arithmetic with an honest question mark on the front of it. And in the meantime, $10,000 you left in a savings account a year ago still buys about $9,670 of groceries today. That one is not a probability. That already happened to you. 4 weeks ago, I told you they were building a free switch for everything, and that Bitcoin was the only way out from under it. Today they turned the key in public and handed us the list of doors it opens. The weapon did not miss because it is weak. It missed because the whole world now knows where its range ends, and the whole world was watching, taking notes, and buying gold. You are not a country. You cannot fly a vault home. What you can do is own the one asset on that list with nobody to call. I am not going to tell you what to do with your money. I never do. I am going to tell you which things have a man in the middle and which one does not. You will do the arithmetic yourself. You always do. Free, no credit card, 2 minutes. Take the money quiz at timtalksfinance.com/members. It shows you your net worth, what inflation is actually costing your cash in dollars per year, and the one move worth considering for your situation. I built it so you would not have to figure this out alone. I will see you tomorrow.